So we're going to look at matrix multiplication. So that's when we have a matrix multiplied by another matrix. So this is not, every matrix cannot be multiplied with any other matrix. There's certain conditions that have to occur for it to happen. If they can, and that's all to do with their orders. So there's conditions on their orders. So remember, what's their orders again? How many rows and columns they have. And if you can do it, if it is possible, we say that it's defined. If you can't do it, so say matrix, you had a matrix A and you multiplied it by B, but it couldn't be found, so it couldn't be done, then we say it's not defined. Okay? And when you'll see later on, when the calculator, when you try to do it, it will say not defined. Okay? So how do we know whether we can multiply a matrix by a matrix? It's all to do with their order. So what we're saying here, say for our example, if we had matrix A here and we were going to multiply it by matrix B. So what we're saying is that they would have their order. So matrix A would have its order, whatever it is, and we're just using, and what they're saying is they're just putting letters there because we don't know in this case what it is. So they're just saying if it had an order m times n. So the first number would be its rows, the second number would be its columns. Now this one, they're saying that it had its order, and they're just saying, and it would have, I don't know, whatever it is, it's n times p. So for you to be able to multiply two matrices, it has to have the first one's columns, number of columns, so that would be that number there, has to equal the second one's number of rows. So if that equals, or if they're the same number, we would say that's defined. So you can see the word there, it's defined. Okay, so then what happens is you end up with, you multiply these matrices and you get a new matrix, and we often label it like this, AB, like I've times them together and we get this new matrix, yeah? That's happened. Now this new matrix will have an order as well. So it's going to have its order. Now what you'll see is that it'll have the same number of rows as that first one. So it'll have whatever numbers there will be in the order of that one. And it has whatever number of columns the other one had. Okay, and that's what the order, that's what your answer will look like. So, and that was how we work it out. So when we're saying here, order, so we might want to write the order which the matrices are multiplied matters. And what that means is you can have A times B may be possible, but B times A may not be. Okay, so when you switch them round, they won't be. In normal maths, if you have 2 times 3, that's the same as 3 times 2, isn't it? Yeah, but not in matrices. So that's what this is saying. So what we're saying is that if you multiply A times B, that is not the same, so not same as B times A. Okay, so that's what that's saying. You can't assume that it's not the same. So let's go and do an example. So I'm just going to flick and go to this example. Find this in your notes. It's not the next bit. Okay, so with this, it says they've given me a whole heap of matrices, okay? And it says decide whether the matrix multiplication, so here where they write that, they actually mean they want you to multiply A by B, okay? So that's what that means. So we need to decide just whether they can be multiplied, so whether they're defined. So we don't have to work it out yet. And if it is, they want the order of the answer. Okay, so we don't have to actually work it out. We just need to say, yes, it can be done, and what's the answer going to look like? What's its order? So what can help is that if you put the order above the matrices they've given you. So let's do that first, and we'll put the orders. I'm going to do it up here because I've got a bit of room. So what's the order of A? Rows by columns. So what is the order of A? It's
3 by 2.
Good. It's a 3 by 2. What about B? What's B? The order of B?
2 by 1.
Yep, 2 rows, 1 column. What about the order of C? How many rows have we got? Yep, 1 by 3. And our last one is a 3 by 1. Okay, so just pop them up because that can make it easier. So let's do this first question. So A, they want me to multiply matrix A by matrix B. So I'll write that there. Now underneath, I'm going to put the orders of them. So you said A was a 3 by 2 and you said B was a 2 by 1. So remember we said for it to be defined, these two had to be equal. Are they equal?
Yeah.
Yes. So we know yes, it's defined. Now they want to know the, so if we multiplied, we'd multiply them together and we'd end up with an AB matrix. Now we want to know what the order of that matrix would be. So remember, the order we take from, once we know we can multiply it, the order is the front number and that one's back number. So the number of rows of the first one, which is 3, and the number of columns of the second one. So my answer will be a 3 by 1. When we work out how to do it, that's what my answer is. Okay, so that's all we're doing today is just making sure it's defined and what would my answer look like. So let's do the next one. It's good we're doing B times A because we just said before, it's not the same thing in matrices, so we need to check. So when we check, we put B's order first, which is a 2 by 1, and A's is a 3 by 2. Now, are these two inner numbers, do they equal? Are they the same?
No.
They're not, so we say not defined, and we just can't do it, so we leave it. We can't get the order of the answer because it's not defined. So that's all you put for those ones. So let's do the last one. The last one they asked me to do C times D. Okay, so the order of C was a 1 by 3 and D was a 3 by 1. Okay, is this one defined? Looking at this one, is this one defined? Are the two inner numbers equal? Yeah, it's defined. Okay, and so that's an F. And so we know we can do it, so we'd have an answer. And what is our order going to be of our answer? It'll end up being what? It's going to be a 1 by 1. Good. You have taken from the rows from the first one and the columns of the second. Sometimes they ask you to explain why it's defined. So I'll just write a little statement here. So we might write C multiplied by D is defined because the number of columns in C equals the number of rows in D. Okay, so let's have that little example because sometimes they ask you to explain. And that is your explanation. You can't just write, see how I write in red they equal, so we can do it. You can't write that. You have to write what that actually is. So I'm saying that the number of columns in the first matrix equals the number of rows in the second. That's why it's defined, okay? That would be your explanation. They will look for that in a test, and they'll look for that in exams as well, okay?